We're back and you're watching News Channel 3 live at 9. Our next guest has sold over 6 million books. Dr. John Townsend's tips have helped leaders achieve the results they want for more than 2 decades.
But oftentimes you'll find people want to stand in your way when you're trying to be successful. Dr. Townsend is here with some advice on handling difficult people. Does this go for children as well?
Well, children, you kind of assume they're going to be. You have to start there.
But adults?
Okay.
Yeah, there are some adults that are 37 on the outside that are 4 on the inside, so they're kind of children too.
Yeah.
Give us some pointers. What are the worst kinds that you encounter? I'm sure there's, you know, egocentric, you know, this type, that type. Yeah. Are there 3 or 4 types?
There really are. Some people are controlling. They get along when you schedule their way, but when you don't schedule their way, they have an attitude problem. Some people are sort of manipulative, make you feel guilty if you can't do things their way. And some people are just sort of self-absorbed, as you were talking about, kind of about them. They're nice people in general, but they really have attitude problems.
But Dr. Yale, I have been wondering, typically some of these folks, do they have the, quote, type A personalities, or can they be very under the radar but still making your life difficult nonetheless? Who are these folks
the
also?
The answer is yes.
Yes.
Great.
You know, type A's can be really nice people.
Yeah. Just
kind of high-strung and a lot of alpha and a lot of energy, but they can get along with you. But there's some people that they sort of have a life plan for you, and you don't know it, and then you find out later.
And there's also, what do you call it, passive-aggressive?
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
Those
oh, my goodness.
Are really, okay, so.
Talk about under the radar.
Yeah, so let's pick a type, and how do we deal with it? Let's say manipulative.
Okay.
Give us an example of what that might look like, and what do we do?
You're at work, and you're supposed to be at a meeting where you've got to have a report in at 3 o'clock, and they need to have their report in, and you say, gosh, you know, it's 3:45 and your report's not in yet, and they say, well, obviously it's because you're giving me too many things to do. And they throw it back on you, or they say, well, I'm the hardest working person here, don't you give me a break. And all of a sudden you start realizing they're not going to take a lot of ownership over the problem. That's manipulation when they don't take ownership.
So if they don't take ownership, doctor, what do we do? How can we kind of turn the tables, so to speak, or even should we? Or would we be kind of playing part of the game?
Well, you kind of have to start on the sequence. Sometimes it's just a gimme. You know, all of us have a bad day, and a 1 or 2 occurrence, goodness gracious, I don't want anybody talking to me about every time I do that, because that'll be a lot of conversations. So is it an event or is it a pattern?
Okay.
If you've got an event, everybody gets a pass. If you see a pattern over several times, 3 or 4 instances that don't change, you've got to have what I call a talk about the talk. Instead of the report being late, instead of the the problem with the company, you've got to say, can we talk about what's going on between us, because something's not working. You get out of the report situation into, you know, we really are impacted by your behavior. You know, you're sort of like a traffic jam here. We're trying to get things done, and you give them the bigger picture of they impact people. Okay. That's often the very first thing.
Yeah, but doctor, you would hope that as adults, we could step up and say, I kind of have an issue here, but do we occasionally need somebody else to step in, or we shouldn't really rely on that other person, maybe as the case might be a supervisor?
Well, there is a sequence there. Whether it's marriage or business or leadership, you start off one-to-one. That's always the best. It's the more intimate, it's the safest. But if people consistently say, it's never me, it's always you, then it's time to bring in the third parties.
Okay.
And then in the really bad cases, you do what they call what Warren Zevon said. You bring in lawyers, guns, and money.
What if the difficult person is your supervisor? I mean, what do you do in that case?
Well, that doesn't happen, does it?
Doesn't happen here.
No, this is the only organization that never happens.
Yeah, it never happens here. But I mean, because, you know, we may be able to have a talk as colleagues, but, you know, if Alex is my supervisor and I'm having that issue, how do I feel comfortable saying, can we have that talk about the talk? Well,
in a really good culture and a healthy organization, Alex would say, I really want to work this out because we're a team. Then you're in the best possible situation. If it's not so healthy, then what you have to say is there an HR department we can talk to?
Okay.
But what I found out in some organizations is you appeal to Alex's interest. I want to make you successful. I want to make you win. You've got pressure on you, and you let Alex know, you know, I'll do things that'll help you. And often Alex will say, well, goodness gracious, people are putting pressure on me. Let's work as a team. That's the appeal.
Doctor, I like the way you're thinking.
It's the appeal upwards.
That's it.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. All right, we will link to Dr. Townsend's website, first of all, so that you can get his many books on his advice, because we all need it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time. We do appreciate it. All right, coming up,